Welcome to Beyond the Beat, your go-to source for insider knowledge on fantasy football. Hosted by Zach Hyduke and Matt Olson. We bring you straight to the action with exclusive interviews from NFL beat writers, draft experts, and film gurus. Get the news from the field, straight from the sources at training camp and beyond. This is where fantasy wins are made.
Welcome in, everybody, to Beyond the Beat with 32 beat writers. My name is Zach Hyduke, and today I am here with my very best friend, Matt Olson. I feel like, if I would have said that a year ago, it may have been a joke, but, now we have to have an awkward conversation. So it's good to have you here with me, Matt.
No, for sure.
How you doing today, man?
Good. It's good. It's been a busy day, which is a good day.
Yeah. Anything special going on in particular with a busy day?
I mean, yesterday was my wife's 41st birthday, so that was we celebrated that a little, and it's just been getting in the holiday season and trying to be as cheerful as possible.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, it's crazy. Christmas is less than a week away now, which if you haven't done your Christmas shopping yet, you better hope that you live in a place that Amazon does next day delivery, because if not, you're probably hosed, as they say. Who else is hosed are the Jets. And we'll just dive. Did you see that story? So we're recording this on Thursday evening. We've got Thursday night football going on, and Matt is rage tweeting about it and the Broncos running back usage here. But to get back to what I was saying, the Jets today, man, they just, I feel like, continue to become a joke of an organization. And I almost feel bad because Jim Nagy just interviewed the president of the Senior Bowl, who has done a really excellent job, by the way, with that. Excited to go in the next little while here, but interviewed for their GM position today. But a major news story just dropped regarding Woody Johnson, the owner, and that he used Madden ratings to decide whether or not he should be bringing in Jerry Jeudy in a trade with the Broncos, which is just crazy.
Yeah, it's a little wild. I mean, I use Madden ratings for our fantasy football player rankings, so maybe I should be in there. That's actually a complete joke, but it's just, to your point, it adds to the negative lore of the New York Jets, right? Like, the franchise just can't seem to get anything right recently, and it just compounds on itself. That I think you have to call Aaron Rodgers a failure at this point, and everything around, what that team has done. I mean, if you disagree with me, I'd be absolutely amazed.
Yeah, I mean, part of it is the fact that, considering well, here's the thing. When it comes to Rodgers, like, in some ways, he's actually been better over the last couple of weeks, but it's too little too late, and if he wasn't, as much of a interesting individual, interesting individual, it wouldn't be so bad. But the fact that, you have all that drama, and apparently Woody Johnson wants to bench him, I don't know. It's just crazy. So, yeah, the story basically came out with Diana Rossini and Zach Blatt of The Athletic that they were making decisions in the Jets building, they being Woody Johnson, forcing his opinion on Joe Douglas and other people, then blaming them for whatever was going on and firing them a couple weeks into the season. Not to say nobody else has any fault in any of the matter, but when you've got leadership like that, it's just tough. But he was getting these ratings, I believe, from his two sons who are teenagers at this point. I forget their names, but not that that's, I'm not trying to out any teenagers here. It's on the guy taking the advice of Madden ratings from his sons to play with his toy, in the Jets. And it's pretty ridiculous. I don't understand how a guy who's apparently so sensitive to media is so ignorant as to how to run those things. So I'm being pretty harsh here, but it's hard not to be when that's what you're doing. So in fact, we had a little bit of insider info in our Discord chat if you're not in there.
Yeah, today was a fun day in there, just going back and forth on numerous things. But the whole Woody Johnson story was it was interesting. That was too funny.
Yeah, we have a guy who has worked with Woody in the fairly recent past in the Discord, and I won't say too much, but if you want to read the whole thing, I guess you can pay us to become a member of our website, and then you can log into the Discord there. But it was just some of the things he was saying. It's like, that is absolutely wild. I think he felt a little free to say some of those things now that now that it's gone. But just, I mean,
what was
I don't know how
the quote? He said like every meeting Woody would come in and just yell to get started, and he'd say security and prosperity, and then just dive into whatever. But every single time, every single meeting, like, that's kind of gold, right? Like, that might be my fantasy football team name next year. You know?
Security and prosperity. Yeah. It's
just wild.
Just ridiculous. So anyways, we won't harp on the Jets too much more. Everybody seems to do that. And at this point, just rightly so. We'll see if they make the right hire and the owner decides to finally stay out of the way. But bad organizations stay bad because they have bad people in charge at the top. All right, let's go ahead and move on to some of the news that we have directly from the beat writers that you can find in our feed.
You're very welcome. Yes. Where you want me? You're good, right there. Okay. Where's
Bits from the beat.
All right, the first thing that we have here for everybody is a voicemail from Tracy. Wow, I can't speak today. Tracy Sandler regarding the 49ers fallout. Tracy is a beat writer for Fangirl Sports. She's also the CEO of Fangirl Sports. You can find them Instagram, TikTok, and of course X, but find her specifically at Tracy, Tracy Sandler, spelled the way that you think it would be, or fgsn.com. Anyways, asked her specifically if she wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of info on the fallout from the 49ers, and this is what she had to say.
Hello, this is Tracy Sandler, 49ers beat reporter from Fangirl Sports Network over at Levi Stadium to give you guys kind of an update on what's going on with San Francisco for these last 3 weeks. The feeling here is to finish strong, get some momentum going into the offseason. There'll be a lot of changes in San Francisco in this offseason, but it's been a long time since they've been in this position where these last 3 weeks are not a push for the playoffs. So that was really the feeling of the day. Kyle Shanahan was asked about Devondre Campbell, and he made a really interesting point in that he was not the 49ers' first choice at linebacker. They had lost out on Eric Kendricks, and he knew that some of the issues that were there, and he said he obviously did make a mistake, but he was not the first choice, and now we know why. Deebo Samuel spoke, and there was something that I just kind of thought was interesting to remember. He was injured early in the season. He had pneumonia. He had a rib injury. There's a lot of talk about his lack of stats and production, but I think these are all things to think about. And this is a team that really needs to prove over these next 3 weeks that they are ready for next season and that they have momentum going into next season. So it's going to be kind of fun to watch, and there might be something too being able to kind of play just because. We're going to see good things out of Brock Purdy. Of course, that's been big discourse in the outside world. The 49ers are certainly not moving on from Brock Purdy. I expect him to sign a very lucrative contract this offseason. And I think that's all I have for you today. Make sure you guys follow me on X at TracyFGSN, on Instagram at Tracy Sandler. For more, I will be in Miami this weekend, and thanks for having me on.
All right. Thanks for giving us a call, Tracy. We always appreciate it. Again, make sure to give her a follow. Matt, when is the last time that Deebo Samuel had a 1,000-yard receiving season?
I mean, I should probably know that. I bet you the Google does.
Yeah, that'd be cheating, though.
That would be cheating. If I had to guess, I would say, let's see, 2001.
2001. Oh, yeah. See, now you're not even Googling 2001. Was he alive? Yeah, I'm sure he was alive then. Yeah, 2021, the last season.
Is it really?
Matt. Oh, I literally thought you were just reading off the page.
No.
Yeah. No, 2021 is the last over 1,000 yard receiving season. He did have a 1,117 yards from scrimmage in 2023. So, if you count the rushing attempts and whatever. But currently sitting 569 total receiving yards and a single touchdown. Yeah. And then, of course, you mentioned the Christian McCaffrey injury. We had him for 3 games, something like that. Obviously the worst pick in fantasy football this year.
Mm-hmm.
One of those things, how are you supposed to know? The 49ers, I certainly don't think knew. I know a lot of people give the 49ers a lot of crud because they feel like, they never get anything out of there. But in general, I don't think anybody knew that was going to be the reality. So it's been pretty bad. Do you have any takeaways, though, from anything that has been going on there, the future of the 49ers, whether that be Shanahan or CMC or Purdy or anybody else?
I mean, I think it's interesting to see kind of how Kittle ages there and how the offense changes. I think Jawan Jennings is interesting long term. I feel like he's a great compliment. They're going to have O-line issues for a little bit, but I think they can patch that up. There's a lot of question marks, right? And I guess that's the overarching theme here is Purdy can be trusted to a degree. We've seen him play MVP ball. I think, but his contract, I forget, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but I know that's coming up.
Yeah, he'll be eligible. And Tracy mentioned that she expects him to sign a big deal, which I also think is kind of news that some people may be questioning on, because sometimes you mentioned his MVP type of work. He's certainly got that buzz, particularly last year. But, at times in weather games, we also see some disappointment. Is that
sure
or not? I don't know. You got Ayuk ripped his knee. Injured most of the year, completely out at this point. You had
the running back disaster behind him even.
Multiple running back situations there. That's not even counting Ricky Pearsall getting shot.
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
crazy.
A very interesting season, and I honestly don't know what to expect from him next year. I feel like if they give Purdy a contract, I'd have to look back at their cap situation, but they can't keep all of these people around forever, right?
I mean, you can't imagine. So I just going back to the Kittle scenario, he's 31, and I mean, obviously Kelsey's done some things, but we've seen a lot more from Noah Gray this year and that kind of scenario. Now, in theory, Kittle has 1 more year on his contract. That's a $22 million cap hit. You got to imagine that, given all those other scenarios, that number comes into play. It's just going to be interesting to see if people will restructure, if we'll push money. The cap's more of a formality, I feel like, than an actuality. At least, from being a black and white situation, you can always seem to move money, right?
Yeah.
So if there's one player on their team that I'm most curious about what their future is, it's probably George Kittle. You hate to see players like that be cap casualties, but if they're going to try and get younger, healthier, smarter, I don't want to go on record saying that I don't think he's going to be there next year, but I think it's going to take some finessing in the salary books to figure out how to bring everyone back and keep everyone going, especially if people aren't ready for next year in week 1.
Yeah, for what it's worth, right now they are showing with $65 million in cap space. Next year, 55 in effective cap space, which sounds a little bit wild. That would almost infer that they have space, but then jumping into 2026, they have 3rd lowest room in the league. So some of this isn't even about what you will have next year in 2025.
Sure.
It's about what you'll have beyond that when everybody's deal kicks in after you re-sign Purdy and then Ayuk hits and all of that. And then any dead cap, of course, from anybody else that you have to move on from with the thoughts of the future. So they are currently sitting at the bottom of the NFC West at 6-8. And we're just going to have to see what happens next year. Let's go ahead and take a real quick break. And then, Matt, I want to hear what you have to say about the Michael Penix situation.
Hey, I know it's a popular statistic to cite, these underdog pick'ems, the vast majority of people go more than on any given player. Yeah, close to 80% of people, but that's because it's easier to find the shootouts than it is to find the dud games every Sunday afternoon. Like we knew week 5, Ravens-Bengals was going to be a shootout. And there goes Lamar Jackson for 4 touchdowns. There goes Joe Burrow for 5 touchdowns. Derrick Henry gets there. Zay Flowers is over 100 yards. Jamar Chase and T. Higgins both got there, as well as Chase Brown. Both Chases got there. You go more than. You win 100x your payout on Underdog with their Pick 6 contest. But then you look at Dolphins Patriots, that's going down the toilet, right? Too bad Ramondre Stevenson at 18 fantasy points. But you improve your chances at positive returns when you correlate with these Underdog pick'ems. Use promo code Underworld. This is the biggest bonus Underdog has ever given out, up to $125. Promo code is Underworld. Put in $250, you get $125. Now go start picking.
All right, let's dig into what was probably the biggest news of the week, and that was the Falcons switching over to Michael Penix from Kirk Cousins. And to help us work through that, we have none other than Daniel Flick of SI. He gave us a call to give us, his breakdown and thoughts on the matter.
After hearing explanations from Raheem Morris, Kirk Cousins, from Penix, the way that this all played out seemed like Atlanta kind of might have had an idea leaving Las Vegas of how this all was trending. And, after the way the last month played out, I want to say Kirk entered the Las Vegas game with 8 picks and 0 touchdowns in his last month of games, hadn't thrown touchdowns since November 3rd. He threw one on Monday night. He threw a pick on Monday night. He leads the NFL with, I want to say, 16 interceptions. It's a situation that Raheem Morris mentioned. He had a lot of confidence that at some point it would turn around. But the Falcons ultimately got tired of waiting. And really, if you look at it, even in Vegas, yes, he threw a touchdown, but he threw one pass longer than around 14 or 15 air yards out of the 17 that he threw. Atlanta's offense has kind of changed in recent weeks because they're trying to reduce the number of risky throws, I guess how you could frame that with Kirk. And he acknowledged, and Raheem Morris has acknowledged, that this is entirely down to the lack of strong decision-making from a 13-year veteran and the unexpected volume of turnovers that have arisen as a result of it. And so this is something the Falcons, this was not the plan, right? At no point were the Falcons expecting to bench Kirk Cousins this year at all. At one point this was a possibility where you'd see Penix play the last 2 weeks because Atlanta had run away with the NFC South. There was a point after Week 9 when Atlanta was 6-3. You look at I think Tampa was 4-6, and they were the closest team, right? And so this is something that just flipped really quick. And so the Falcons are – a lot of guys were surprised, right? That was the initial reaction from today. As a lot of players, I'm sure a lot of people have seen Kyle Pitts clip saying he had not seen this coming. He had not expected this at all. And the Falcons completely expected to have Cousins start. Again, as of November 9th, heading into a November 10th game in New Orleans, I think Atlanta was 6-3. I think Cousins had won 2 NFC Offensive Player of the Week awards. He had been trending up for well over a month. This is something that I said yesterday. It would have stunned me if you would have informed me of this in June, July, August. It would have really stunned me if you would have told me this a month and a half ago. So it's changed really quick. But Atlanta believes that Penix gives it the best chance to win. And ultimately, the Falcons have a chance here to win 10 games, to win more than 7 games for the first time in 2017. And ultimately, that's all Atlanta cares about here. So that's kind of what drove this change. That's how the organization feels. And I guess it'll be interesting to watch it play out.
All right. Thanks again to Daniel. Follow him at Daniel, or at rather, by BY, Daniel Flick, FLICK on X, Daniel Flick of SI. Thank you for calling in, man. What's crazy here is they are 6th as a team in passing yards right now in the league. But as he mentioned, 16 picks to 18 touchdowns.
Yeah, I mean, they also have a minus 49 point differential. That's not doing them any favors. It hasn't been, obviously that number is what it is because of the last few weeks. It's just, I get why you want to make the move to try and switch it up, but your team's still in the race for the division. You're one game behind Tampa Bay, assuming obviously Tampa loses and you win. And not maybe, clearly the Falcons organization thinks that Michael Penix is the guy that's going to potentially make that possible. This weird scenario, though, is then you're sitting on Cousins, who, let's say Penix does play himself into the starting role, for the foreseeable future next year, whatever. I mean, Cousins carries a $65 million dead cap hit next year. Like, what are you doing with that? You have the league's most, or the highest paid backup in the league probably at that point. It's going to be interesting what happens with Cousins. Cousins has been pretty professional throughout his career. At some point, I feel like a statement might come out. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. You saw the national writers, postulating about what it would be like to trade the contract versus just cutting it outright. Because, I think pre-June 1st, like you mentioned, is $65 million, which, even if you consider, okay, we're not paying Michael Penix that much, you're still paying over $70 million for the quarterbacks in your room, and you're not starting the veteran, and you better hope that, Michael Penix works out. Now, one thing I'm going to say really quick is I put something out on Twitter that, hey, I guess it was wise to have a backup plan. They got a lot of flack at the draft, and everybody's like, no, it was still a stupid decision. Like, okay, both things can be true here. It can be stupid to do both of them at the same time, but that doesn't make them both stupid if the other one doesn't work out. Like, one of them is still, in some ways, I guess you could argue stupid, but I went back to the show. I was going to clip it if there was anything good, and I sounded like an idiot. But at the draft, I actually sounded rather competent, in my opinion. Now, of course, that's me talking about myself. But, I went back and listened, and it was just like, it was a weird thing, and it was a shock. But let's say you bought Kirk Cousins, and then you brought him in, and then you started having second thoughts. Yeah, that wasn't smart. But what is smart is to have a quarterback there and draft him if Kirk Cousins isn't going to work out. If Kirk Cousins worked out and he sat around for 3 or 4 years, I mean, I guess hope you have a Jordan Love situation. I don't know. I don't know. I just think I feel offended that I got so much flack for it. I guess I'll say that.
It's interesting, too, from a fantasy football standpoint. Like, you think you have this. He's doing whippets over there.
Jeez. Yeah. For anybody who doesn't know, this is it's a habit, though. I will say that. It's not habit
like
forming.
Your Zyn, right?
It's Vicks Vapo inhaler, but of course the packaging isn't on it, so it looks like I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing.
Maybe Cousins needs one of those to wake up on the field.
Yeah, there you go.
But to go back to that, from a fantasy football standpoint, I think it's even more interesting. You have Cousins, who you think is going to be this guy who comes into Atlanta and just, you get to see what you saw previously in Minnesota, and you have, some great weapons. You got London. In theory, you have a great weapon in Pitts, that's for a topic for a different day. You have a great running back behind you. Like, this whole thing should have been more successful. And I'm sure there's tons of teams out there that are scrambling right now in the fantasy playoffs because maybe you did have Cousins as your, in a super flex league and whatnot. And now you're starting, who knows, probably not a QB in that slot. So it certainly makes things interesting with the time of year, I guess is what I'm getting at as well. And then the future, with Cousins, you have to hold him on your roster because, to your point earlier, he could go somewhere. He could be back in the mix next year or in a week, or we don't know. So I think this is a great segue as we get into the next section here. But it's going to be interesting to see how Michael Penix performs in his first game.
Yeah. We'll get to him. And actually, yeah, let's just go ahead and jump right in. We'll go into our love-hate. All right, love-hate from last week. We loved Geno Smith, Alvin Kamara, Rico Dowdle, Hunter Henry, among others. But those are who we mentioned on the show here. Looking at Geno Smith, did not finish well, but he was injured, I believe, partway through the third quarter, and he is going to be playing again this week, but he did not finish the game, so we're not going to count that. We're just going to push it. Alvin Kamara did get injured, but he's still placed at running back 11, which was one spot ahead of the ECR, which we were comparing it to. Rico Dowdle placed at RB9 on the week. The ECR on him was number 16, and we had him at 10, so he placed one spot above where we had him in our rankings in our love spot. And Hunter Henry, unfortunately, did not live up to the love. I believe he was somewhere. I think he was like 4 for 25 or something.
Yeah, it was
like
just
that.
low.
So,
it was low
yardage. Yeah, just wasn't what you're hoping for. So I feel like that's at least 2 hits, 1 miss, and a push. So that feels all right to me.
Yeah.
With our hates, Jameis Winston benched. Tucker Kraft, we also hated. He finished number 22 from an ECR of 8. So we were accurate there as well. Unfortunately, we also hated Sam Laporta, who finished as tight end 1 on the week. So I guess we got to take the L. But Matt, we didn't say to bench him. We just said to temper expectations.
Yeah. I mean, you were still, I hope we made it very clear that we weren't down on him. We just weren't as high as clearly he finished. So you should have still started Sam Laporta. If you don't, send some hate email our way. I'm sure we'll, it's always fun to read.
Yeah, for sure. But make sure to address it to Matt. And I would we definitely did not recommend you bench him. We just said that, you should temper some expectations. So if you bench Sam Laporta, it was not because we told you to do that. All right, let's get into our loves for this week. Matt, the first one is Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I mean, he comes in as an ECR of 7, and we have him ranked 3rd. I think big part of this is, we have a note on here that the Panthers defense is kind of a mess right now. But I'm thinking that their offense might be able to actually keep them relevant in this game and keep potentially high. I don't want to say high scoring, but higher than you would expect scoring game out of this. And, that means Murray's going to be active both in the air and on the ground. So it'll be interesting. I know my biggest thing with the Cardinals is not so much Kyler as it is some consistency out of Marvin Harrison. This is obviously a little off topic, but I would like to see some consistency down the stretch from him going into next year. And I think consistency there leads to consistency with Murray, which I think a Cardinals organization wants to see as well.
Yeah, the Cardinals, you mentioned it, so I'll mention our tool here, which you can find at tools.32beatwriters.com. I'm specifically looking at the Week 16 NFL implied totals, and the Cardinals and Panthers are 3rd as far as over-under is concerned, and the Cardinals are number 5 in the implied total as the spread is -5 for them. So, yeah, as much as you might look at this and be like, ew, gross, it's actually, at least Vegas believes, supposed to be a relatively high-scoring game. So, yeah, the only concern that I would have if I'm starting Kyler Murray is that James Conner decides to do a James Conner thing, and I believe he was running back 1 this last week. So, doesn't mean you can't have success from both players at the same time, but that would be my only thing.
No, that's a very, very fair point. This is also an endorsement for Jalen Coker, in case anyone hasn't figured that out.
Yeah, for all you, what do they call them? Cokeheads out baby. There. Again, man, that's 2 references out there to illicit substances. We'll see if we get regulated here. Sorry, Mom. All right. Our next love is, what is it? Who is it? Michael Penix.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. I was kind of shocked. I'm not gonna lie. You don't normally see Vegas take, I guess, risks, right? On especially with tape you haven't seen or experience you haven't seen, and Vegas is going pretty crazy. They got them ranked at number 11 on the week, and the ECR has them at 26. Someone's gonna be wrong. Is it gonna be the fantasy football community or the most mathematic driven system in America? We'll find out.
I guess so. Yeah, I mean it's crazy. Again, you can find our Vegas rankings here, where this is where we pull this stuff from. We take basically part of how we get our love-hate. A big part of it is we compare expert consensus fantasy rankings versus what our Vegas prop-driven rankings and our projections say, and we've got them 15 spots ahead. I mean, that is massive. So, I mean, do you have the big Michael Penix energy to go and start this guy in a playoff game, especially if you maybe had Kirk Cousins, you're in a super flex league and everybody else is being stingy? Somebody out there is like, okay, am I going with the Giants quarterback or am I going with Michael Penix? There, I feel like the decision is easy, but man, somebody's in a tough spot.
I mean, it's gonna be interesting. I think if nothing else, there's going to be so many eyes on this game just because of him starting. I'm not saying that from like an adding pressure to Michael Penix standpoint. I'm just saying, like, if you're a fair weather fan of and just generally watching, this could be a fun game to watch to see how this kid does. And man, I hope he goes out there and smashes it. It would make for such a great storyline.
Yeah, I'm curious here where they're at on the implied totals. I can't imagine. It's crazy. I mean, most rookies, I think Caleb Williams is the last guy in like 40 years. Maybe it wasn't quite that long as a rookie to go out and win his first game. And the Falcons are number 8 in implied totals, just behind the Ravens. I mean, and just ahead of the Rams and the Eagles and the Chiefs, who, by the way, are getting Hollywood Brown back. I mean, that is crazy. Like you said, somebody's wrong. Yeah, I hope it's great. I mean, yeah, they are facing the Giants. Sorry, you probably just heard the earth shake in my microphone. I just smashed my foot off the desk over here. So we're a professional operation. Running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, ranked 1, ECR 1. Why is he on our love list?
I think it's just for the sheer fact that like everyone is expecting this guy to have a monster game, right? Like this is truly his chance to go out there and just be the guy who he was brought in to be. Obviously, Montgomery, I think when Gibbs originally got drafted, they weren't exactly expecting this backfield to be what it was or what it is currently, or that whole 1-2 just beating defenses down. I think what's interesting here more is what's behind Gibbs. Like, I think we expect Gibbs to succeed, do his thing, go all out. Not a lot of people wanted to take a stab in this week in the wonderful city of Detroit and plant their flag and how this was going to shake out behind them. And I think that's the most telling thing, right? You got Craig Reynolds in there who's been a veteran on this team. He's gotten work in plenty of scenarios. He's looked okay. He's had some solid games. What do you think it's him or you think it's our off-season darling?
I don't know. And I honestly don't know if it matters, I guess. I don't know if I have the wherewithal and the, intestinal fortitude to start or consider starting anybody there. But I think to your point, like you said, it just reinforces the fact that we're expecting Jahmyr Gibbs to have a monster game. And thankfully I have him in my semifinal here that nobody cares about, but very, very excited about that.
And, I care, Zach.
Thank you, Matt. And thank you to the random citizen out there who cares as well. If you want to hear, updates about our fantasy team, which by the way, okay, maybe you'll care about this. we are in 2 leagues now together as co-owners. So that's a thing. We're going to have some disagreements come rookie draft time for these 2 dynasty leagues, one of which is a 2 tight end. I cannot believe I agreed to this. And he's like, oh, it's an industry, it's full of industry people, it'll be great. And it's 2 tight end, he told me after I signed up. So that
it's a fun league.
Yeah.
Jacob Gibbs is the commissioner of it. It's just great for randomness and whatnot. And I just missed the playoffs because my boy Hawkinson just fell off the train in Los Angeles this year. But we're gonna rebuild. It's gonna be a fun offseason. 32 beat writers is going to be a little bit more dialed into what's going on with rookie tight ends.
Yeah, I hope so. Hopefully see some of them in a couple of weeks here. Moving on to the next guy, I guess, in Jacoby Myers, wide receiver for the Raiders. Not a sexy name, but I guess we've got him almost 10 spots. We've got him 8 spots above ECR.
I mean, this is one that I think makes sense. There needs to be someone that's taking volume outside of Bowers, who's, starting to see a little bit more. I don't want to say double team, but it's essentially that. You're getting like a linebacker shadow and the safety coming down sometimes. It in theory should open up someone. The issue is, I don't know how many people watched the Vegas game last week, but if you watched Ritter and you watched Sam Howell when he came in for Geno Smith, it was almost equally comparably bad. I mean, it was some of the worst football I've watched this year. And that's not good for a love column. However, I think you get another week of practice, you get, another game plan under your belt. I think a lot of the times we see a bigger jump after a transition like that. Not the first week, but into that second. And we're not looking for, Ritter to go out there and throw for 303. We just need to not be consistently terrible, move the sticks. Even if it's these intermediate routes, get those 7 yards, 8 yards. Myers gets, let's call it 8 of those. It's a good day. You're laughing at me, which I fully respect.
No, I'm sorry. I saw something funny on the screen here that I'm not going to say. And then we're going to keep moving on because I got so distracted by it. I was looking for a drop to throw in. And that's funny. All right. Okay. We're going to move on from that. Nobody has any idea what I'm talking about. Good content. Dalton Kincaid brings up the tight end section with a rank of 8, ECR of 14.
I like that. That was a quick pass. You just wanted off a
I'm just, okay. I'll tell you why. Because the last time I did or said anything about this game that's coming up next, I got yelled at in our Discord for it by other members of our team because I was pumping up Christian Gonzalez, the corner for the Patriots. But,
hey, listen, you're a cheerleader, man. I give you credit.
I mean, here's the thing. He is a very good cornerback, so I'm going to lean into it here. But the point of that was, who is Christian Gonzalez going to be covering this week for the Patriots? Because whoever he covers tends to get locked down. And we actually had a response from both Alex Barth and Phil Perry. Thank you to both of those guys for responding. Fans of both of them, of course, and Phil has been on the show here. But I asked specifically, hey, who's this guy going to be covering? And they both assumed that it was going to be Cooks. So if anybody, he may just stick to the side of the field if there's not a dominant one, but in general, he has a very high shadow rate. And so you want to avoid that guy. So if you're starting Cooks this week, be a little bit concerned.
Cooks,
maybe. What am I? Oh, a Cooper. Sorry, Amari Cooper. Why am I thinking Brandon Cooks? Yeah, I got Patriot. Yeah, see.
James Cook might be coming in there for you.
James Cook might be covered by a cornerback. That's what we've heard this week. Everybody in their vehicle right now is just shouting at me into the void. But Dalton Kincaid, however, may be a beneficiary of that. How about you explain a little bit of why that might be the case?
I like the note on here from our guy who puts these together that, it's a wasteland after the top couple guys. So to see any kind of advantage, I guess, is always something you want to take advantage of. And I think this is just kind of one of those perfect formulas. We know Kincaid's more than capable of being a competent tight end and putting up numbers. It's been a weird, almost Green Bay-ish offense in Buffalo, especially over the last probably 6 weeks. Obviously, Josh Allen is benefiting from that an absolute ton. But I think, to the point, to go back to it, this could be a matchup that works out for Dalton Kincaid, and I think you're pretty safe playing him this week.
All righty, let's go ahead and move into the hate column. Let's blast through this here real quick. We hate Aaron Rodgers this week. We've got
we do.
At 19. Yeah, screw Aaron Rodgers. ECR of 16. So, Vegas has got him slightly lower this week, and the Rams pass rush might just be the reason. And we'll just have to see, I guess, how that continues to work out as he's coming off that Achilles, despite the fact he's looked relatively healthy recently.
Sure. No, me and Woody Johnson are going to watch that game in the dock with ayahuasca. So third illicit reference on the show.
Actually, I think you mentioned that before, so we'll say that's 4. I got to get a ding. Ding. 4. Right, there you go. But, okay, that's all you had? You're just going to sit in the dark with Woody Johnson? Okay. All right. Yeah. Makes sense for me.
No hope.
We also hate Anthony Richardson. It seems like fantasy folks cannot get off of the Anthony Richardson train. He is ranked as a top quarterback this week. Well, at least, top 12 at ECR of 12. We've got him ranked 21. The guy can't hit the broadside of a barn sometimes, it feels like. The question occasionally is why, if that can be fixed. But who cares for this game? We don't think it matters.
No, I mean, he's got the lowest passing yards on the week and the lowest passing TD odds on the week. It's just, Vegas is out on this guy this week. So if for some reason you're in on Anthony Richardson passing, for whatever reason, there's a lot of money to be made here. This was really interesting to me. So, and we talked about this in the Discord today too, is, when I did my initial rankings before these all came out and looking at them, every week I try and get them together on Tuesday and Wednesday and then adapt based off of what comes out. And I initially had Anthony Richardson ranked decently high. I had him in the mid-teens, I think it was. I think at one point I even had him originally, I think, at number 11. And then I dropped him back a bit, and then this came out and I was like, okay, this is strange. But you hit the nail on the head. There's still this weird hype and excitement around Anthony Richardson, the quarterback, and I think it's the whole, what could be, right? Like we want to be hopeful. We know what he's capable of on the ground, but until it starts coming through the air at all, his finishes rank-wise are going to be so inconsistent.
Yeah, and regardless of the reason why you think that is the case, there have been some guys who have dropped a ball every once in a while. I mean, it's not as if everybody in that wide receiver room has been perfect and that he's been perfectly supported, but I'm sorry, sub 50 passing percentages don't pass the sniff test. They just don't. And I don't know, we can't
who does pass the sniff test, Zach? That'd be you, sir.
Oh, thanks. I don't know.
I was talking more to your illicit scenario over there.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, we'll take a hit of that again here in a bit. Bucky Irving is also on the list of hates. We've got him ranked 22 with an ECR of 15. Looks like Rachaad White may be back in the mix here.
Yeah, if you are on the Bucky Irving bandwagon, which is not a bad place to be, it's almost just annoying. Like, you want White to go away. Like, Tampa wanted White to go away for obviously a good chunk of the season. And then this guy, White, would get opportunity, and he'd do, like, every time he got back into the mix, he did something with the opportunity. And I think Tampa finally realizes, like, we got to get this guy touches, because maybe in this more limited work, his efficiency drastically goes up. And that's the way this backfield should be if they want to win ball games. He's clearly a great receiving threat. We've seen that time after time. And he's still getting rushes. He gets to tote the ball pretty regularly, which, again, this time of year in fantasy football is like the worst thing in the world if you're a Bucky Irving owner and you need to start him.
Yeah, we've got Rachaad White, I believe, at 20 this week. So we actually have him, 2 spots ahead of Irving, and neither one of them. I mean, in a spot, if you have to, you can go with that, but not great. I will say, take a look at these rankings over the next couple of days, because sometimes they move and sometimes lines move, which means sometimes our rankings move as well. And to be truthful, a lot of professional rankings move. ECR not as much, but there's people that update like up to the minute before a game. So just check that out. As we mentioned, we got wide receiver Terry McLaurin, who we had a question about in our Discord on a couple of start sits, and this was a tough one. He's currently ranked 22 for us, ECR of 16. The Philly secondary and Quinyon Mitchell locked that situation down last time they played. Are you scared?
I mean, I am. I think there was a very strategic plan put together last time to limit McLaurin. And if you're Philly, I feel like you try and execute that again. McLaurin's been having low yardage total weeks. They've been propped up. There was a 2 touchdown game in there, single touchdown game in there. But we're not talking large, like, yardage numbers. He's getting catches fairly. I think he's been averaging about 4 to 5 receptions over the last, I want to say, 6 games or so. But again, the yardage totals aren't there. So he's been hitting these numbers with a touchdown or 2 here and there. And if you negate the touchdown, I'm shocked. I was honestly surprised to see him ranked 22nd this week. I thought it would be lower. I honestly expected it to be more in that high 20s, even in some cases in the 30 range based off of the last game that they played against Philly. Obviously, it's a big game for both teams. Could be a statement game for Washington. So maybe if you're, an offensive coordinator, you might want to look into that and say, hey, why the hell didn't we get this guy the ball last time and move him to where you need him to potentially unlock him? But I don't know. I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, I mean, with the results of last game back in week 11, I don't know how you can't. He's had 3 games outside of the top 27. And he has only had 2 games that even were as far back as top 20 outside of that. So 5 games outside of the top 21, really. If you followed me, congratulations. And one of them was, of course, against Philly, where he was held for 2 targets, 1 reception, 10 yards. And yeah, I'm not starting him this week. I have him in a dynasty league, and I am starting like James Conner over him. I mean, I have a pretty stacked team. No humble brag. So, of course, a lot of people would be like, of course you'd start that guy over him. But, he's been money in the bank. And so it's going to be tough for people to bench him this week. But honestly, like you mentioned, rank 22 might be a little high. I would honestly consider just putting him on the bench and hoping I don't get a donut. Devonta Smith in the same game is ranked 31 with an ECR 25.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not a drastic difference here in terms of, we're talking 6 spots. I think it's just kind of like a Sam Laporta scenario last week. Like, just temper your expectations. You're still most likely starting him unless you have a stacked team like clearly my friend does over here. But it's just one of those scenarios where he might not be what you need him to be this week.
Yeah. Hey, and as far as the stack team is concerned, I sold my soul to get that. So if we don't win this year, it's going to be pretty bad, pretty sad. Tight end Mark Andrews rounds out the hate on this show, at least. Ranked 15, so outside of the top 12 entirely, with an ECR of 8. He's been on a pretty hot touchdown streak, but Vegas thinks that stops, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, he scored in, 4 out of 5 games. He had 2 receptions last week in that Giants game, which obviously Lamar didn't play. I think it was like 3/4 of the fourth quarter. They blew him out, but the yardage totals kind of going back to the McLaurin scenario. Obviously, McLaurin's had a good few weeks, but like if you look back at Mark Andrews, you're seeing 22, 44, 67, 24. So I think it's basically what we said here. If the touchdown streak ends, you're getting not a dud, but you're getting 4 to 6 points. At least that's what we're projecting, right? And it's hard to continuously catch touchdowns. I mean, odds probably say that he's due to not catch one. I'd be curious, and I wish I looked this up, when the last 4 game in a row touchdown streak was. Might have been St. Brown this year, if I remember correctly.
That makes sense. If it was, he'd be on the right team and the right type of player for that. Jamar Chase maybe has something going as well.
It was, I'm almost positive it was Brown, because he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row that he caught a touchdown. I'm pretty sure that by far leads this league. But so it can be done. It's just, I don't know. I'm on the hate on this for sure. And I was down on my initial rankings because all good things do come to an end.
Yeah, and I don't know if you have somebody who you can start over him or not. You see the words Mark Andrews in there. It's going to be hard to put him on the bench, but can I put you in the hot seat and ask if there's any particular situations that maybe you're facing or any situations where you're starting somebody else over him?
So in the Scott Fish Bowl, I would have been in a scenario where I would have had to make this decision. I was eliminated, I believe, last week. Yeah, it is a sad day in the world. But, it's scenarios where there's tight end premiums. You're probably starting them where your next guy is someone that, like, you're in the below Dalton Kincaid range, right? You're in the Cade Otton, Jake Ferguson, Pat Fryermuth. Like, I'm starting him over that. Fryermuth's interesting because Pickens being out again. But it's weird. Vegas didn't seem to do anything with that line after it initially popped. And then, Pickens getting ruled out probably around, I want to say it was around 2 p.m.-ish today. It was official. I think we kind of all knew it was going to happen and he was going to get ruled out. But it is still interesting to see Fryermuth that low. He's been a little consistent. So maybe that's someone who I consider playing over Mark Andrews. But outside of that, you are in the tight end wasteland heading down the bottom there. So I would say more times than not, you're starting Mark Andrews because you probably have no one else.
All right. Well, good luck as you make those decisions. If you want more help making those decisions as we round out the weekend with some Saturday and Sunday games, you can find all of those tools to help you make those decisions at tools.32beatwriters.com. You can also find our 2025 draft tracker there as well. And coming soon will be our 2025 big board. We have a show dropping. If you are listening, it should be dropping tomorrow. If you're hearing this on Friday, I believe it'll be dropping Saturday. I am hosting it, so I should know. But we're gonna have our guy, our draft guy, TJ Wingert, on, and he's gonna give us his first. We'll leave the show title a secret, I guess, and we'll release that for you. So yeah, keep a watch out for that. He's going to be releasing that big board when we get further into the off season here, and you can check all that out again at tools.32beatwriters.com for more. Matt, do you have any last thoughts for the people before we get out of here?
No, if you're still in it, good luck. You know, we're almost done here. So trying to enjoy the last couple of weeks. Enjoy watching football. We get a lot of it this week, and that means it's a good week, including some exciting college ball on Saturday. So definitely something to keep an eye on. There's a lot of prospects playing. There'll be an article dropping tomorrow to kind of give you a guide on who those players are to keep an eye on in the college football playoffs. So be sure to check that out actually this morning. Should be a great week for football.
All right. Yeah. Make sure to check that out at 32beatwriters.com. Particularly check us out as well on Twitter at 32beatwriters. If you don't already follow us, check out the rankings, love, hate, implied totals, and 2025 draft tracker, as we mentioned multiple times throughout the show here, as well as our most recent articles from Matt Olson and all of the 32 Beat Writers staff. I am Zach Hyduk, and we will see you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Beyond the Beat with Zach Hyduk and Matt Olson. For more expert analysis and exclusive insights from the best in the game, don't forget to subscribe and stay ahead of the competition. Until next time, keep turning that insider knowledge into fantasy football wins.